I want to talk about what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been saying recently. He sat down with Axios for an interview this week, and he said that it's not fair, those were his words, of President Trump to publicly tell Ukraine and not Russia to make concessions in order to reach peace. And he went on to say in this interview that Ukrainians would never forgive him or the United States if they had to concede the Donbas region to Russia. Is this coming down to this peace deal, these negotiations, to Putin wants the Donbass and Ukraine just will not give that up? Do you think that is the crux of all of this when you boil it down?
When I think how Putin is negotiating, he is asking precisely those maximalist demands, especially about Donbas, knowing that Zelensky cannot accept that, and to portray Ukraine as an unreliable partner to the United States. And that's the part that President Trump has to understand, that when he's negotiating with Russia, we have to understand that sometimes in the West, we think that everyone has to leave negotiations equally and happy. No, everyone has to leave negotiations equally and happy, including Vladimir Putin. And that's precisely, if Putin wants to end this war, he can just pack his stuff and leave. The problem is, as I mentioned, for him, his economy is already a war economy, and he's willing to continue with his imperialistic quest. And he is also a very ego-driven person, surrounded by a yes men who do not tell him the truth about what's happening really on the battlefield. So I think that's also an opportunity for President Trump to deliver some bad news to Vladimir Putin and to tell him that, yes, we provided carrots so far. Maybe it's past time to send some sticks.
Earlier this month, Zelensky said that President Trump gave both Russia and Ukraine a June deadline to reach a peace deal. And based on what we saw from the talks, the Geneva talks, which came after, where both sides characterized them as difficult, paired with the side and the position that we see Russia and Ukraine have now, based on all of that, do you think that that June deadline is realistic? Is that happening?
I don't, and I will tell you why. Even if something is signed in June, that is just going to be a pause for Russia to reposition its military and then to continue. We already heard different deadlines in the past, and that's precisely, what Russia is weaponizing now, negotiations, talking, about asking those maximalist demands, so President Trump put more pressure on Ukraine. So objectively, even if anything is signed by June, or in June, that will just be a pause, not the end of this war.
So what specifically then are you looking out for next when it comes to that June deadline, or when it comes to, I believe both sides indicated that they will continue talks. What are you looking out for next?
What I'm looking for next is that President Trump should stop putting additional pressure on Ukraine and start putting a pressure on Russia. But something else that I'm looking at is actually what's happening on the border with Russia, with other countries in the Baltics and Poland, where Putin is truly trying to show that NATO is a paper tiger, continuing with his hybrid war by actually trying to escalate things and to make sure that all those countries get scared, so they actually put additional pressure on Ukraine to stop the war. We should not fear such provocation, because this is an old KGB strategy. And let's also not forget, yes, Putin was a KGB agent, but he was a second-rate KGB agent. So even he is a strategist, he's not a master strategist.
Dr. Stradner, I really appreciate your time today, breaking this down for us all. And as we see developments coming out of Russia and Ukraine, I hope you can join me again. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation.